we meet and we can get ourselves together, we can welcome Jason. I'm glad, it's nice to be back here. It was our first breakfast back in Trestle Way after a very long winter. I mean, we persevered. We were at Town Hall. It was like we were up on the penthouse on the 3rd floor. It was not bad. It worked out okay, you know, with the elevator and the trolley car and warming things. And we just have to get a, you know, if they put a stove into the kitchen at Town Hall, I'd be all set. But it was good. We managed. We got through. So I'm glad you're here, and we've got a nice, you know, morning with Jason the Basher from the Sheriff's Department. And Jason, you know through the Triad program, he has that up and does. Your official title now is
Assistant Superintendent.
Assistant Superintendent. We've known him since he was a little bit younger.
Captain.
Yeah, that's right. But and Jason is also an elder law attorney, so you know we can talk with him about some of the things such as healthcare proxy or durable power of attorney and triad, and so we can hit him up for a few things. Next month, our very own Dick Boucher is going to be our speaker because Dick has a metalworking hobby. Yes, I was going to say, and so he's going to share in. A lot of that has to do with the model railroad interest, and so he's going to share all of that with us. And that's one of the things too that Dick's talked with me about when we're in the new Pearly, when we are in our new senior center at Pearly School. We'll be able to do some things like have a group to get together and do some hobby work. And Dick, I said, oh, would you like to lead that? He said, sure, I could. So we're already planning. We're already planning. We were very, very grateful to the town for their support at this week's town meeting. So we've got the money in place to do the design work and the planning work. Ed has already put together, you know, blueprints with me reflecting the programs that we've, in the program space that we need. So, you know, we'll be ready to talk with, you know, do a request for proposals or a request for quotes to have an engineer on board or a designer on board. We'll be able to take Ed's work and go forward with a true design for the project. And then in the fall, we probably will need to come back to town meeting for a few more dollars in terms of finishing the work, but it's pretty modest. I mean, we're just talking creating some walls inside the classrooms to be able to do some confidential meeting area and some office space. And
you'll have the privacy that you haven't had now. It's a big spec.
And that opportunity to do a few more things, you know, to do something like a hobby group or to have a book club or a caregiver support group. You know, we're really grateful. So we're looking forward to all of what the future's going to bring, and it's going to be good. So.
I gotta move my car.
Uh-oh.
You're in trouble. Which one? I'm in a place too. I'm in a no.
So hold that thought.
Okay, so. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
As Colleen introduced you, my name is Jason, and sir, I'm going to take you. You're coming with me today. Okay, I got plenty of beds available at the jail. All right.
Lock them up.
Don't test me. So, as Colleen introduced me, my name is.
Cities, that comment would get a riot going. You realize?
Yeah, I guess.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
All right.
Well, this guy's being a little rowdy over there.
I know. All right, I'm sorry. I guess I'm trying to see if we can figure out. Parking's limited, so.
So it's okay.
Well,
I'm fine.
All right. Well, okay. We're gonna let Jason, you know, speak, and then you can, you know, I'm sure you guys can. We'll have some good questions, and we're gonna start cleaning up.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. So as Colleen introduced me, my name is Jason, and I work for the Sheriff's Department. I've been with the department now for 17 years. And one of the hats that I wear for the department is I'm the director of a program called Triad. I've been doing Triad now for actually over 10 years now. And we do all kinds of senior safety programs with the seniors. And one of the things we do is we go around and we give talks on particular topics. Now, Colleen asked me to come today and give a talk on the importance of having a power of attorney and a healthcare proxy. I'm also an attorney as well, and I do, you know, I do this practice in this area outside of work as well, so I have a little bit of expertise in this. I'm not an expert in it, but hopefully I know enough to be able to give you some good advice on having these documents. Does everybody have a power of attorney in the healthcare proxy here? Very good, very good, good. So, I'm going to start with the power of attorney now. I gave you the handouts, I gave you the healthcare proxy handout, I gave you the power of attorney handout. We're going to start with the power of attorney first. Now, what is the power of attorney? Well, a power of attorney is a legal document where you give somebody the power to make your financial decisions for you if you can't. Okay? That's what a power of attorney does. Basically, you're saying, hey, you can pay my bills, you can do this, you can do that, you can go into my bank account if I can't do it for myself. And that's what a power of attorney is. Now, why should you have a power of attorney? Like I said, if you become incompetent, if you're not able to manage your finances, you want to have somebody in place to be able to do those things for you. Because if you don't, then somebody's going to have to go to court and petition the court to be your guardian, and it's going to take a lot of time and it's going to take a lot of money. Okay, so it's nice to have that document in place because it makes things so much easier. Now, the word durable means, when I say durable power of attorney, that means it's just that the document is good even when you become incapacitated or incompetent, okay, where you can't, or you're not lucid enough to make competent decisions on your own. That's what durable means. Now, how does it take effect? Well, there's several kinds of power of attorneys. There's the springing power of attorney, and there's the immediate power of attorney. Now, most people, I know for myself, I have a power of attorney, and I have what's called a springing power of attorney. Now, the power of attorney is only good while you're alive. Once you pass away, the power of attorney is useless. Okay, you can just throw it away. There's no need for it anymore because it's only good while you're alive. So, the two types, springing and immediate. I have a springing. So what happens is that my wife is my power of attorney. So if I get in a car accident and I leave here today, actually no, even better. Sir, your first name is?
Ken.
Ken?
Yeah.
Ken. Say I leave here today and I go out in the parking lot and Ken's not very happy about this talk. I can't believe I wasted my time to listen to that guy talk this morning. So he meets me out in the parking lot and he gets his cane and he whacks me over the head with it. And now I'm in a coma. Okay? I'm unconscious. Okay?
I'd have him arrested.
I go to the hospital. Well, I certainly can't manage my financial decisions or my finances at all. At that moment, when this doctor puts something in writing and says that Jason is not lucid, is not competent at this time, at that moment, my wife will spring into effect. And she will then be my power of attorney. Okay, that's what the springing power of attorney. Now, most of the power of attorneys that I've ever drafted have all been springing power of attorneys. I have done a couple of immediate power of attorneys. And immediate simply means that once you sign the document, that person you elected as your power of attorney is now in charge. I've had a client of mine in the past that she was going in for some major surgery and she didn't know how it was going to turn out. So she had signed an immediate power of attorney before her surgery. So just in case that her son could actually then take over her finances if she wasn't able to while she was in the hospital recovering. Okay. Now that's an immediate. Now, both documents are revocable. Okay? Which means that you can change your mind. Okay? Say today I'm going to use my friend Ken again. And Ken comes, say I'm an attorney, I am an attorney obviously, but say Ken comes to my office and says, I want to draft a power of attorney. And I want to name, sir, your first name?
Roger.
I want to name Roger as the person that will take over my finances. I want him to handle my millions. Okay?
Hey, Raj, that's pretty good.
If I can't. Okay? So, I draft the document. Ken signs it, okay, the springing power of attorney, and Ken says, you know what, Roger, let's go celebrate, okay? So they go downtown here in Georgetown, and you must have a local bar in town.
Yep.
No. VFW. So Ken says, hey, drinks are on me, let's go down to the VFW and have a couple of drinks to celebrate. And while they're drinking, they get in an argument about, say, politics. And Ken doesn't like Roger's stance on certain things for the political issues. And Ken says, that's it, you're out. Okay? I'm changing my power of attorney. You're not going to handle my millions anymore. And sir, your first name is?
Gary.
Gary is going to be in charge now. So Ken comes to my office. He can change the document. He can have me change the wording and all kinds of stuff. So my point is, it's a revocable document. Same with the immediate. Okay? Now, what happens if you have a power of attorney, it's a springing power of attorney, or even immediate power of attorney, and you can't handle your finances right now, and the person you selected as your power of attorney is now in charge, handling your affairs, okay? But you, say you're in the hospital, and you get better now. Now you're better after a couple of months. Doctor puts something in writing, says, yeah, Ken is competent right now, he's doing great. At that moment, the power that you gave to that person ceases, okay? Now Ken's back in charge if it's a springing power of attorney, okay? Everybody understand that?
Jason, a question, is this normally plugged into your last will and testament?
No, it has nothing to do with your will.
Even though you have something in there that sort of, I'm not gonna say it's comparable, but does the same sort of thing?
This is the thing, is that the power of attorney is only good while you're alive. The will is only good after you pass. So, you guys that have wills right now, I have a will, obviously, your will is useless right now, okay? It is useless. It doesn't even matter, it doesn't exist right now. Once you pass away, that's when your will comes into effect, and now it's an important document. And your power of attorney that you had is useless.
But if I'm ill and sick and I'm not able to make a rational judgment, you sign something, I think, in my case, it was my wife can make the decisions.
That's a power of attorney.
Okay.
That's exactly the power of attorney. Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm in a trust, and I have an executor. Now, they're also in charge of the health proxy, the same person.
Yeah, and you can do that.
So,
Well, you have a trust, and you have what's called a trustee.
yeah,
Okay. And that's the terminology. And if you have a trust, you have a person called a trustee who manages the trust, and then you have the beneficiary.
I'm the trustee,
Okay.
because I'm the only one left
Yeah,
now,
you're
but
the trustee, and
if something happens to me, either bad health or if I pass away, then this person takes over. But,
right, as a backup trustee.
right,
Exactly. Exactly. Yes, that's something different. For your will, we used to call it executor. About 3 or 4 years ago, we changed it. Now it's called personal representative for your will. So you can elect somebody as your personal representative to manage your estate after you pass away. Okay? But while you're alive, that document is useless. Okay? Doesn't mean anything. You know, your most important documents, I think for my older clients, their most important documents are their power of attorney and their healthcare proxy. Okay? So like I said, your will is useless right now. It's your power of attorney that's really the important document that you have right now. Any other questions?
This hit us when my mother went in the nursing home.
Right.
We had to start handling their finances.
Right.
They told us the durable power of attorney wasn't effective any longer, they'd written too long ago.
Yeah, that's not true. That's not true.
Oh, that's really good, so
Yeah.
they got a few extra $100 out of me, huh?
Yeah, the banks do that every so often. That's why they use the word durable now.
That's what I thought the word durable meant.
Right. Obviously I wasn't there, so I don't know the whole story with that, but, the document is good as long as you want it to be.
Somebody collected an fee to write it.
I guess
Which
so.
was troublesome, because when we went to my mother, she was still, cognizant, but she thought maybe we were trying to get to her money. And it was a little touchy situation, and if she had been at the point where she couldn't re-sign the documents, would have been a
Well,
real
the
mess.
thing is that the banks, a lot of banks will say, hey, this power of attorney is kind of old, you should get a new one. Technically, do you have to? No, you don't. Okay. I'm not sure if you went through a lawyer at all,
Yeah,
but
we
if you
did.
went to a lawyer, they should.
New papers drawn up and she had to sign them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was, like I say, it was touchy because, the fact that we were paying her bills for her nursing home care and everything.
Sure.
We had to go through that.
Sure. Let's see. I had this question asked me once. Say if somebody, oops, sorry. Oh, good catch, sir. I had this question asked. A daughter came to me and says, my mother needs a power of attorney and she wants to name me as her, you can call it anything you want, agent. Now, which means that only her debt can be paid out of mom's assets. Your assets are not involved, they can't touch your assets. However, if you're a power of attorney, and this does happen every once in a while, unfortunately, if you're a power of attorney and you kind of alluded to that, sir, about your mom thought you guys were trying to get to her money. Sometimes, and it does happen, we have bad people out there all the time, a power of attorney, they start dipping into the person they're acting as their agent for, start dipping into their money, and they're buying Corvettes and Porsches and all kinds of things, okay? That is not for the benefit of the person they're acting as the power of attorney. So what I'm trying to say is that if you're not acting in good faith as somebody's agent, guess what? You'll be responsible for that debt, okay? Does mom really need a Porsche to be driven around in all day long? No, no. So they have to be acting in good faith. So that's the only time somebody can be responsible for mom's debt or things like that, if they're not acting in good faith. Sir?
How do you prove that?
Mom,
You're
really
talking
good
court
lawyer,
cases?
That's why we have a court system.
Yeah,
They go to trial.
okay. Yeah.
Probate court has trials just like all the other courts do. Yeah, and that's what you have a trial for.
If you're absconding with funds, you go down and see Jason again, down at Middleton.
Yeah,
In the
yeah, you'll come see me in Middleton. Yes, exactly, exactly. Okay. Can you pay your attorney, in fact, or the person that's acting as your agent? The answer is yes. Okay. Generally, it's called reasonable compensation. That say if I'm Ken's power of attorney, and I'm managing Ken's billions now. Okay. And I didn't know you were such a tycoon there, Ken.
You're doing all right.
So I'm managing Ken's billions. Okay, I'm paying his bills. I'm doing anything that needs to be done. Can I get paid for my time? The answer is yes. And generally, like I said before, it's called reasonable compensation. What's reasonable? It all depends on the court.
To $500 million maybe or something.
To me, that'd be reasonable, but I don't know if a judge would agree. It all depends on the court. I had a client in the past that her mom had passed away. She was the executor at the time. Now it's a personal representative. And she was, if anybody's ever been an executor before of somebody's estate, it's a lot of work. And she wanted to be reimbursed for the time that she spent because she was taking time out of work. And it went to court, and the judge decided that $25 was considered reasonable an hour. $25 an hour is considered reasonable. So it all depends on the court. So yes, they can get paid. What records should my attorney in fact keep? Well, they should keep a original copy. When I draft power of attorneys for clients, I do it in triplicate. Okay, so which means I have 3 originals out there. Okay. A copy of a power of attorney is useless. Okay, if you go to the bank with a copy of a power of attorney, they're probably going to say you need to come back with an original. Okay, because they want the seal, the notary seal on there, and they just want an original document. So what I usually do is I draft it in triplicate. All right, so you want to make sure. So what I do is I make sure. Say if Ken comes in and he's my client, I would give Ken an original copy of a power of attorney for his files. I would keep one. Okay, and then I would give one to the person he elected as his power of attorney. So say Roger. Okay, so there will be 3 originals out there because it said a copy is useless. Okay. Can I add a relative's name to my bank accounts instead of getting a power of attorney? Does anybody have that situation now where maybe they have a child of theirs on their bank account that they can pay their bills for them? Okay, that's fine. Okay, a lot of times people say, I don't need a power of attorney because I have my son Jason, he's on my account and he pays all my bills. That's fine, but just understand this is that when you pass away, okay, that account is going to be Jason's, 100%. Now what happens if you have other children and you wanted them to split that account? Does Jason have to do that when you pass away? No. Jason can keep the whole thing, okay? So you want to just keep that in mind.
Even if it's in your will that it's gonna be divided?
Supersedes the will.
Oh.
Right. There are certain things that will that will trump the will, okay, that passes outside of a will. Like for instance, life insurance policies. You can have a life insurance policy, say, and I'm using my friend Ken again.
Yeah.
Ken's got a life insurance policy, and he names me, and I'm just the guy he meets today. And after this, Ken and I get talking, and he says, "You know what? I like you." Ken says to me, he says, "I'm going to name you as a beneficiary for my $500 million life insurance policy." You know what, Ken? You're a great guy. I like
You're
that.
gonna have a lot more friends today.
Push over,
So-
Earl, I'm going in that seat.
So Ken names me, we go down to his insurance agent today, and he names me as his beneficiary for his life insurance policy. Now, Ken, do you have any kids?
Yeah.
Okay, so how many kids do you have?
7.
Holy smokes.
We're busy, we were busy.
I guess you were busy. So Ken has 7 kids. Ken passes away, and in Ken's will it says, "I want my life insurance policy proceeds to be distributed evenly between my 7 kids." Now, let me ask you a quiz question here. Who's getting the money in the life insurance policy? Me, Jason, some stranger, or the 7 kids?
Jason.
Jason is.
Why is that?
Passes outside the will. If you have anything with a designated beneficiary, then that trumps the will. Life insurance policies, pensions, 401ks, okay? Anything like that. It goes, so you can have it in your will, Ken, all day, every day. It says that I want my life insurance policy with Bank of America. I want that $500 million to pass evenly between my 7 kids. But if that beneficiary form on that form that you sign doesn't say that, guess what? Those kids ain't getting it done. Okay? So, yes, sir.
But sometimes, I thought when you sign a power of attorney that it says that you are not to benefit. And so if it was changed during the power of attorney to your name, it's still legal? It's still a different.
All the power of attorney does is it names somebody to manage your affairs for you if you can.
Yeah.
It's not saying I'm giving Jason
So-
$10. All the power of attorney and the healthcare proxy do is just pick somebody that you picked to manage your affairs or your medical condition for you, your medical decisions for you. That's all the documents do. The will is the document where you actually give things to people after you pass away, which means that you can give things to people while you're alive if you want. But the thing is that, you know, a lot of people will change their wills, but they'll forget to change their beneficiary forms for the 401ks and for the life insurance policies. And that's where it trumps the will. That's why you're gonna make sure, a lot of lawyers will say, hey, make sure, I notice you have a life insurance policy with Bank of America for $100,000. Get me that form, the beneficiary form, because I know you wanna change that beneficiary, because if you don't, guess what? It's still gonna go to the person you elected it originally. Questions? Questions on power of attorneys? No? Okay. Healthcare proxies. Healthcare proxy is a legal document for your medical decisions. If you can't make your medical decisions for yourself, you're electing somebody to do it for you. Okay? That's all the healthcare proxy does. Why is it so important to have a healthcare proxy? Well, do you remember several years ago there was a case in Florida called the Terry Schiavo case?
Yeah.
Everybody remember that case? That poor woman, I'm not sure how she got to where she was, but she was basically in a vegetative state in the hospital for years. And her husband fought for years in the court to take her off life support. I mean, she really had no hope for improvement. And her parents were fighting to keep her on life support. And this went on for years in the court. Can you imagine how much money was spent on this case? She did not have a healthcare proxy. That's why, if she had a healthcare proxy, it would have avoided this whole mess. And whoever she elected as her healthcare proxy could have made the decision and said, you know what, she stays on life support, she comes off life support. Okay? That's what the healthcare proxy does, and that's why it's so important to have those documents. And it's so easy to get. Okay?
Again, isn't this something that's at least plugged into my particular will? Most wills have this, is if you're you're not able to make decisions like this, medical decisions.
That's a living will.
Living will, okay.
And that's basically, you could call it an advanced directive. I call it a personal wishes document. Keep this in mind, those documents, the living will, the advanced directive, the person you elect as your healthcare proxy does not have to follow that. All it is, that's why I call it a personal wishes document. It's just your wishes. Nothing in writing says that they have to do that. That's why it's so important when the question comes, well, who do you pick as your power of attorney or your healthcare proxy? Well, you know what? You pick somebody you trust. Simple as that. Does it have to be your spouse? No. Does it have to be your children? No, it doesn't. Okay? You pick somebody you trust. Most people do pick their kids, and most people do pick their, their spouses. Okay? You pick somebody you trust. I had a client of mine several years ago, and she has 2 adult children. She was going in. I was doing her estate plan, I was doing a will for her, I was doing a power of attorney for her, and a healthcare proxy. And she says to me, well, I said to her, excuse me, I said, her name was Rose. I said, Rose, who do you want to pick as your power of attorney? Okay. She says, well, I'm going to pick John, her oldest son, John, because John was good with money and he knew what he was doing. And so I'm going to pick John, and then I'll pick my daughter, Joanne, as the backup, because you always should have a backup. I said, okay, no problem. I said, who do you want to pick as your healthcare proxy? And she says, well, I have to pick Joanne. Well, why do you have to pick Joanne? Because she'll be upset. Okay. I said, okay, well, let me ask you this. If a situation came where Joanne had to make a medical decision for you, say if it was to take you off life support, where you don't want to be on life support, you listed that in your advanced directives, your living will, your personal wishes, whatever you call it. Would Joanne take you off life support? Oh no. She'd keep me alive forever. She'd keep me alive like Ted Williams. Okay? I said, okay. So I said to her, do you really want to pick Joanne then? Because she's not following your wishes. I said, what about John? Could John be your healthcare proxy? Oh yeah, he's cold as a cucumber. Okay. He can make that decision like that. And I said, well, my recommendation to you would be to select John as your healthcare proxy and then Joanne. Picking somebody as your power of attorney or healthcare proxy because they're going to be upset is not a reason to pick them. Okay? It's a pretty important job. Okay, and you pick somebody you trust. When does it take effect? Well, it could be an immediate, could be springing, just like we talked about with the power of attorney. Springing takes effect, say, at the moment you're incompetent, doctor puts something in writing, says Jason can't make a medical competent decision at the time. My wife would then spring into effect as my healthcare proxy. I've done a few immediates, but most of the power of attorneys, healthcare proxy I've done are springing.
Do you have to have a seal on that, or just a witness?
You have to have notary.
Notary
Notary, yeah.
In
With a
other
seal.
words, the
Now,
health proxy is no good unless it's signed, sealed, and delivered?
No. A healthcare proxy, you can use a copy of a healthcare proxy.
Okay.
It's only the power of attorney you must have an original. A copy of a healthcare proxy is okay. You still want to have it notarized though. Okay. Even to have the copy notarized, but
Even when you have it signed by someone that's witnessed your signature?
you want to have a witness.
Whether you've gotta have it notarized, plus?
Yes, I would have, I notarize them to be safe. Okay, you want to have it notarized as well.
But you go to the hospital and you give them one and it's not notarized, is it still good?
Yes, pretty much at the hospital. I do it just to be safe. Not saying you necessarily have to, okay? But a copy of a healthcare proxy is okay.
If you're in tough shape, would it make sense to have your doctor receive a copy of,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the things too, is that comes the last question. Who should have a copy of the healthcare proxy? Well, basically,
Primary care.
yeah, your primary care, the person you elected as your healthcare proxy should have a copy. The backup should have a copy. Remember, copies are okay for a healthcare proxy. You don't need an original, okay? Your doctor should have one, but yet if you're like most people today, they have different doctors in different hospitals. So the day of just giving one healthcare proxy to your doctor and that covers everything are over. You've got to make sure that they all have copies. So when you do a new one, make sure you're telling them to get rid of the old one here's my new one. And that's how a healthcare proxy is terminated, either by written it up, or tearing it up, or drafting a new one. Okay, let me just turn that off, sorry about that.
That's cool.
Got a geisha dancer coming up.
Hey, that's
No.
great.
Sorry about
That's
that.
next month, guys.
Just turn this off real quick.
I got a question. In general, seem to get scammed more so than the younger folks. And I think we're probably more believable or something, or more believe in falsehood, or trusting, that's the word I was looking for. When you look around at people that get something from National Grid, I guess lately, where you say, you got money due and you have so many hours here to pay it, otherwise I'm gonna shut your power off, or whatever it is. How do you deal with something like that? In other words, is there anyone you can check on or hang up? That's the other thing.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody,
I tell them I
you
died.
guys, yeah, I mean, I always use my grandmother for example. My grandmother's 93, and she's doing great. You're 93, sir?
Not quite now.
Oh, okay. 92. She's doing great, just like you, sir. And I always use it for example because she just comes from, you come from a different generation where people were nicer.
Yeah.
People were nicer, people were more trusting. I mean, my grandmother, believe it or not, she grew up in Lawrence.
Yeah.
And she
A
never
rough
locked her
area.
door,
That was a
okay?
great city.
It used to be a great city.
Yeah, so just a different time. And somebody called the phone, she was pleasant. Somebody knocked at her door trying to sell something, she was pleasant, she was nice. Me, somebody calls my house and I don't even let them say hello, click. Or if they come to, I don't even answer the door if they're trying to sell something to the house.
Yeah.
It's just a different time. The problem is that these scammers know that you're a nicer group of people than my generation. And so they know to take advantage. I use my grandmother, like I said, my grandmother gets these phone scams all the time. And they'll call her and they'll ask her, would she like a lifetime subscription of the Boston Globe or something? And she'll be pleasant, she'll be, no, thank you. But while she's on the phone, she's giving out way too much information. No, I get the Eagle Tribune, and I live alone, and going on and on and on and on. And every once in a while, I'll prank her myself. And I'll pretend I'm somebody trying to sell her something because I'm testing her. I want to see how she's going to do. And she gives out way too much information. She's too nice. And that's the problem, is that somebody's calling you, saying, no thank you, click, don't even get into it with them. If you want to do business with somebody, call them, okay? Like people trying to sell you things door to door. I just did a talk the other day on scamming, on scams, on paving, like a paving scam that's going around.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody knocks on your door and says, hey, I got some stuff left over from another job. I'd like to help you out. Give me $500 and I'll patch up your driveway. No, thank you, okay? If you need your driveway fixed, call somebody.
Right.
Call them, have them come out, give them an estimate, and get 3 estimates. Or get recommendations from your buddies. Say, hey, you ever had your driveway paved? You recommend anybody? That's the best way of getting, best way of referring somebody is by recommendations from friends, people that you trust.
How would you treat, I don't happen to be on Facebook and I don't wish to be, but how do you handle a situation like that where on Facebook you may say, I'm gonna be away for the next couple of weeks on vacation to see my uncle so-and-so.
Why would you do that?
Well, see, but normally, yeah, a lot of people do, not realizing.
That's insane.
Yeah,
Because what you're doing is you're telling everybody that, oh, I'm gonna be away, so come over and have a free-for-all in my house.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I've heard of many occasions that people have said, yeah, I can't wait, we're going to Aruba next week.
Yeah.
And their house gets broken into while they're in Aruba.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
happened in North Andover, I remember several years ago, they did that. Never do something like that. Never say, hey, I can't wait, I'll be,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll be away for the next week or so. You're just telling criminals that come on in and have fun.
Right, yeah,
Even that you're going to the grandchild's birthday party for the day.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's amazing.
That's
They
why
have
that's
posts
why
out there.
I have Facebook, but I don't post, I really don't, like,
You have to limit
I
what you can
don't,
say.
yeah, I put very little on there.
Yeah.
Delete them, or you don't
Best
have
thing
to
to
go on
do is
Facebook.
stay away
It's
from
like
it.
a class.
Yeah,
It sees, now as a parent, you know, social media,
that's the way to go.
I mean, I didn't grow up with social media. I wasn't until I really got, you know, it was cell phones. Okay, you know, that wasn't until I got into college. Actually, it wasn't until I got my first cell phone when I started working for the sheriff's department in 1997. So I didn't grow up with the cell phones and the social media, but now, I mean, my sons who are 7 and 5,
Oh, yeah.
they won't know anything different. And so I've got to be on the ball, knowing what they're going to be looking at, because it's very scary. I mean, they use my phone sometimes to play games, and I got to keep an eye on what they're watching on my phone, because they can get on the internet from my phone, and every once in a while they may be watching something a little inappropriate, and I'm like, hey, whoa, 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 give me that. You're not watching that. It's tough. It's tough to regulate what's on the internet.
On the healthcare proxy, you can have more than one name on here, right?
Yeah, I always recommend that you have a primary and a backup. Because what happens if
You can't
the
get
primary
both.
predeceases you,
Yeah.
and you only have one listed? Then it's useless. Then somebody's gonna have to go to court, okay? So you always have a primary and you have a backup. Can you list 2 in the primary spot? You can. Do I recommend it? No, because what if they don't agree? Then you got an issue. You might have to go to court to have a judge decide between those 2 arguments. So, yeah, is any other questions?
Living will, I mean, I had one of those as far as when I made my will out. That allows, if
That's-
I'm reaching the end of life here.
That's when you get into specifics.
Yeah.
Do I want to be on life support? Do I not want to be on life support? That's a living will. It's not a legal document in Massachusetts, which means that the person you elect as your healthcare proxy does not have to follow it. That's why it all comes down to, who do you pick as your healthcare proxy? Somebody you trust. Like I said, I did this talk several years ago. Actually, my oldest son now is gonna be 8 in July.
Oh my God, I
And-
remember when he was born.
Yeah, and my wife was pregnant with my oldest son when I was doing this talk in Danvers, so talking about 8, 9 years ago. And I remember she wasn't working because, you know, she was just about at time to deliver, so she took some weeks off before that. So she decided to come surprise me. I was doing a talk, like I said, in Danvers, and I was doing this exact same talk. And she came in, of course, right at the moment where the question was asked, well, who do you pick as your healthcare proxy and power of attorney? And of course I say, well, you don't have to pick your spouse. She's in the back of the room, and boy, did I get a death look. Okay? But it is true, you don't have to pick them. Most people do, but you don't have to pick them. My point is, you pick somebody you trust. You don't have to pick your kids. You know, I'm hoping my kids will be competent to make decisions like that one day, but some people are not as lucky. Where maybe they have a child that maybe has a drug problem, or has issues, and they can't make those types of decisions.
I would say probably if it's your spouse, that's probably an excellent time to have the backup, because if the 2 of you could be in a bad car accident, you could both be in the same situation.
That's why you should always have a primary and a backup.
Now, do you have an office that you work out of as a lawyer?
I do.
Where?
I do. It's in North Andover.
North Andover?
Yeah.
So if I wanted to do this, I could come see you?
Well, I really can't, because I'm giving this talk in my capacity of sheriff's department, so.
Yeah,
But, so I'm just here to offer information, sir, that's
okay.
all. I'm sure there's plenty of capable, great lawyers here in Georgetown.
I don't trust lawyers.
You don't trust them? We're not all bad, sir.
But you could always call me for
I was
some
on the police
referrals.
department for years. To me, they're the only people that got a license to lie.
That brings me
You know why they
to my
bury them 12 feet down, don't you? Deep down, everyone's good, right?
association, or is there some referral system? How do we know we're getting an attorney that is going to?
I will tell you this, I think the best
Just,
way
we'll
is
say, call the council on aging.
call Colleen. But word of mouth. Word of mouth is the best way, in my opinion. You know, hey Roger, do you have your documents done? How was your attorney? Oh, he was excellent. That's the
I
best.
don't know if he's excellent, I haven't had to use him yet.
And I'm saying that, but Roger said the guy that he used was, my point is,
Roger Studd,
but no, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
A
just like,
a
yeah.
reference is the best way, a personal reference. I mean, that's how, that's the best advertising, the best advertising.
You've had good experience with that individual.
Yeah, yeah. And it's always good, you know, like if you have a local town attorney that knows everybody, because you know what? If you got a good you wanna make sure you have a good reputation in the town you're working in, because that's where you're gonna get the majority of your business. They don't wanna be doing things underhandedly, and, because they're gonna get a bad name, bad reputation. So you picked, you know, I think word of mouth is the best advertising. I'm sure, sir, I'm sure that you ask these guys around, they may have
Well,
some
I've
recommendations.
got this in place, but now the question is it been done right?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, you could always bring it to another attorney and say, hey, you know, could you look this over and let me know your thoughts? Is this exactly what I wanted? You could always do that as well. You might have to pay for them to look at it. But, I mean, but I would recommend, you know, if you're in Georgetown, and some of these guys may have some, Colleen may have some recommendations.
Whatever, you know, and,
You
you
could
know,
visit with
Mass
them.
Bar
I know, I'm
Association.
sure they'd be happy to sit with you
Mass Bar Association.
and go
I've
over
got
your
legal
documents for you
service.
for a fee, you know, obviously.
It's probably time to review it.
Well, keep in mind, I mean, you should be reviewing your documents every 5 years. Because things change a lot in 5 years. So you really should be looking at your documents, maybe updating them if you need to. But every 5 years is usually a good time frame to look at your documents.
I've not done it, but my attorney recommended, he said, bring your 2 children when you come in to do your will, because that's where you can also hash out what do they want, if there's anything you want, then.
That's if you want your kids to have anything. There are some parents that I've had clients that have completely written their kids out of the will.
I'm okay with that also.
Yeah,
It's
you
not
have
easy to do.
To do that, you need to specifically put it in the will that I am intentionally omitting my son Jason from my will from getting anything. You have to really be specific.
That's a phone call. What happened to the do not call list?
That's a good question.
I don't think they work very well.
No.
No, I don't
Still get
either.
all
I don't think they
Wow.
work very well.
Huh.
I don't know exactly how it works, to be honest with you, sir, but I know it doesn't work very well because my phone rings out the hook too.
Yeah, definitely.
Every so often when I'm in a good mood, I'll go along with the spiel.
Don't answer.
Well,
Check
no, I
the
feel
call
like
ID.
talking to
Don't
somebody.
answer.
I feel like talking to somebody, so I get a window replacement
Call
coming.
me.
But that's the
Don't
problem,
answer.
sir, is that they know that with
But
seniors.
listen, I know what's going on. I'm not gonna fall for it. So, window replacement. I got to the 3rd level. I got to a manager. And then I said, now can we use these windows in a historic district? Oh, I'm sorry, Sue, we can't. I said, well, that leaves me out. All that time they wasted.
Sir, we gotta get you something to do.
What I found works good, if it is someone and it seems like a cause that you care for, I tell them, mail it. I said, I make
Yeah,
no
yeah.
decisions like that over the phone.
Yeah,
You
send me
mail
some
me something,
documentation.
and it never comes.
Of course, sir.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll end on this there. As far as this phone scams, is that they know for the most part, and let's face it, us guys, we don't live as long as the women do. And so a lot of times you have these older women that are still like my grandmother, 93. My grandfather died when he was 60 years old. She's been single now for 33 years. My grandfather, I think you said you were a vet, sir.
Yeah.
My grandfather was in the Navy in World War II, and he was in Pearl Harbor when that all happened. So he had some tough times, and you know, his heart gave out on him, and back in the early '80s. And so my grandmother's been single now for 33 some odd years, and these scammers know that you have a lot of older women that are now by themselves now, and that they're lonely. And so my grandmother will pick up the phone when somebody tries to sell her something, because why? She's lonely. And it gives her somebody to talk to. It's really sad that she's at that state, you know? So, I don't know, I'd say don't pick up the phone, but she likes it when people call her.
Yeah, I
You know,
When I get a call like that, first thing I do before I listen to any spiel is, what are you selling today? And then either they hang up or they'll give me a little blurb on why they called. And then I hang up.
But that's for caller ID.
Yeah.
If you don't, I mean, or screen your call, let it go to your answering machine. Just don't pick up.
Yeah, most of them
Because as
won't.
soon as they,
won't
I
answer
mean,
them.
but even with the robocalls,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
we pick up, they know that they've got a connected number.
They're looking for the time home, when
Yeah.
somebody's home,
Right.
and the next day or so they'll
Yeah.
call back.
I mean, I screen and wait, you know, to see who is, but if it's one of the kids, then I can decide.
I honestly, if I don't recognize the number,
Yeah, I
don't
don't,
pick up the
yeah,
phone.
I let it go to the machine.
You know, nowadays, you know,
Sad.
most people in my age bracket, a lot of us don't even have home phones anymore.
No.
That's true.
And so everything is just cell phone for
But
me.
I get telemarketers and
So do I,
on-
but my thing is that if I don't like, for instance, you know, obviously I have a lot of my numbers saved. I don't ever ask me what my wife's phone number is. I couldn't tell you, because all I know is I go right in there and I just
speed dial one.
speed dial, you know, hit a number. If a name doesn't come up on my phone that I don't recognize, well, actually, if you don't have it stored in your phone, it's just gonna come up as a regular number.
Yeah.
And usually I don't answer the phone if it's just a regular number, because I don't know what it is.
Just wait and see.
If it's important enough, they'll leave a message,
Yeah.
and if it's important enough, I'll call them back.
I don't even know what my number is, I have to keep looking.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I had a cell phone on Monday, but I haven't seen it since, I don't know where I did it.
We can telephone it, we'll call it, see if we,
It's always shut off.
is it that town meeting?
I wish I
I
had
like the
that.
robocalls.
I don't even own one.
When I don't
Lucky
have
you.
it, I'll just
Lucky
set the
you.
phone down.
I wouldn't know
Hang
one.
up.
All right, any other questions at
I'll
all,
wait till
or?
the phone buzzes.
Very good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jay, thank you.